Okay, so this is the second video in my series on my new strategy and philosophy regarding herpes. So we're going to start with some philosophy. If you watch part one video, there's a big part of me philosophically that is believing. There's a part of me, I'm torn, but there's a part of me that believes that what if these genius doctors, self-proclaimed geniuses, are actually wrong? I'm going to tell you something. They completely got it wrong for COVID. Completely. Everything about it. So now one of my patients is a pretty smart guy, and he and I have been collaborating, and we are batting around ideas. And he pointed out some of the smartest doctors in the world ever, like Dr. Mullis, the inventor of PCR. Um, let's see if I can think of any more names. Dr. Cohen. And there's a couple more names, like an HIV guy that knows a lot about it. It just, the list goes on and on. They're very intelligent guys, and these guys actually believe that none of these conditions we're treating that we believe are viral are caused by viruses. That blows my mind as a completely conventionally trained doctor. It does blow my mind, but once I pick up the dust and gather my thoughts and look around, the first question I go is, "Wow, this does start to make sense. How is it after all these years of the magnificent technologies we have, a little tiny piece of DNA can outsmart every scientist in the world? It doesn't even have a brain. It's just a DNA virus. Something's wrong in the state of Denmark." So I got the idea, well, how could we be missing it? I said, wow, you know what? I started really thinking like a bizarre little intuitive rabbit hole. And I go, wow, this is funny how the biggest thing that could share similarities with the concept of herpes is poison ivy. Because the first question someone should ask, which I asked in this theory, is, well, then how, if it's not a virus, how does it get spread? And the best I could come up with was, well, you know what it's like? It's like a delayed type hypersensitivity reaction. Now we're going to look at what I'm pointing. And ironically, I found this article, delayed type hypersensitivity reaction in the pathogenesis of recurrent herpes eye disease, stromal keratitis. So here they notice in this article that this keratitis is one of the leading causes of blindness. The cytokines characteristic of Th1 cells, those are cells that are immune cells in our body, have been shown to dominate in herpes keratitis, in addition to mechanisms by antigen-independent cells such as neutrophils, basophils, and monocytes. So it's clear that this is recognized as a contributor to keratitis, suggesting a role for delayed type hypersensitivity. Well, if it's part of keratitis, I guarantee it's part of every part of herpes. That's why it's no shocker. It's similar to poison ivy. So now I'm going to teach you how does poison ivy kind of work. So think about, imagine instead of urushiol, I don't know how to say that compound for poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac. That's an oil. Use your imagination. Work with me or something. Imagine basically that somehow the first time that a patient gets herpes, it's something to do with a contact, like something like an immune reaction to pathogenic particles being released by the first person's immune reaction instead of a virus. And instead, through the results of the antigen-presenting cell, this happens, dirty particles, these enzymes, all that destruction results in random bits of DNA, and they're completely mistaken. That instead, you get the result that's like the herpes outbreak, because it just doesn't make sense that a virus resides in people for, if people live 200 years, it would live in them for 200 years. Instead, it makes way more sense that they're having some bizarre recurrent autoimmune cycle. So by the third and fourth video, I'm going to summarize the plan that I've created that fixes all this, and it's documented, but I need you to understand these steps. So first of all, that's the first thing to point out. How does this poison ivy process work? The immunogens come through. Let me see if I can click on this and open it bigger. No, it's been removed. So reactive. So the immunogens come through. The antigen presenting cell picks up on the antigens, the offending factors, and then the reactions start. And then the T cells have it all memorized, and they give off the destructive things that cause, boom, tissue damage. All this goes on behind the scenes of your T cells and tissue damage, and it looks like poison ivy each time. The cool part to me is, look at that. You would not know if that was poison ivy or herpes necessarily unless you took a history. That picture is not telling. Too bizarre that it's so similar. And I found this other report showing the delayed type hypersensitivity, which is the same as poison ivy. I think there's a whole lot to my theory here, gang. And I find it extremely novel, and there is information where people are using this knowledge to treat, and I'm going to present that in the next couple videos. Thanks for watching.